They hated us so much and thought we were pussies and all that. They were coming out. Their girlfriends were holding them back. They wanted to come down and fight us.
There are some harsh accusations in your direction, and to me as a fan,
most of it.
Yeah, yes, most of it.
Pepsi was a massive Megadeth fan, and Dave Mustaine was one of his like idols, which he met him and Dave Mustaine hated him. To be honest, that track slipped through the net. It shouldn't even be on that record.
Okay.
It shouldn't be out there at all. Pepsi was like a really tough guy. You'd have never thought about it, but he was. He was a really hard guy. And so once or twice it happened, and he beat the shit out of people. I saw it myself.
Jay Pepper, the original guitar player of Tigertailz, is with me this evening. Thank you so much for taking your time. And you have a new record out. So let's talk about the latest Tigertailz release, Bezerk, the demos. What was it like for you when you heard the demo versions of the Bezerk songs for the first time, I guess in many years, for the compilation of the album?
Yeah, well, hi Michael, and thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Really, really good to be here. I mean, over the years, I kind of heard these demos, and somebody'd released them a long time ago. They were selling it via a CD on eBay or something. It was already out there. So when the F&A guys, record label F&A, came to us and said they were interested in doing it, it was an opportunity to get this as like a formal release out there, an official release, rather than it being like a bootleg kind of release. And so we had a chance to put a package together, and they were good enough, the F&A guys, to pretty much give us a free rein with that. And I wanted to give each of the songs like people an insight into the songs, how they came to be in, and that kind of thing. And so it all came out really good. Yeah, and it's bizarre listening to those songs so many years later. I mean, it's I don't know, 30, maybe going on 40 years. I don't know, crazy amount of time. To hear them now is just insane. Some of them really good, and some of the songs that didn't make the Bezerk album, I listen to them now and think, well, why not? They should have done, But there you go.
I thought the same, and there are some great songs on Bezerk, the demos, and some rare diamonds, and some really special things. You have so many different styles in your music. There was always some different vibes to it, and this is also the case with Bezerk, the demos. And I like to talk about some of the songs and the stories behind them. And the first one that really caught my attention, Noise Level Critical. We know the song from the Bezerk record. It was a great song back then. It still is today. You had a video back then for the song, and the demo version is something completely different. It reminded me a bit of Beastie Boys. I hope that's okay to get that.
Yeah.
And I wondered which version came first, the demo version or the one on the Bezerk record?
Well, yeah, I mean, songwriting is a weird kind of thing. Anyone who's written songs, I should do a whole section on this myself, because I the way I write songs, it's a bit different now to then, but generally songs then started from the riff, or sometimes you had a melody in your head, but more often than not it was the guitar riff. And I had that, but I think I had the title in my head and started singing that. And then the rest of it, so the demo side of it, would have come first. And yeah, there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on at the time. The Beastie Boys, as you say, I think kind of Rage Against the Machine were kind of just about sort of starting to happen, and that sort of stuff. And we were like influenced by loads of that stuff. We weren't, to be honest, the glam side, that all came purely because we were into Van Halen and that kind of stuff. And in early pictures, you can see even before Stevie joined the band, the band had like a kind of an image, and we had bits tied around. It's almost a bit like Van Halen, Women and Children First kind of era. We were sort of into that. But when Stevie joined the band, that the image took a much bigger kind of, I suppose, in towards the glam area. And really, it was the first Kerrang feature. As soon as we had that defined us. It actually absolutely transformed things overnight, and it actually became our nemesis, because no matter what we did musically then, it didn't matter. It was just people you were either into that scene and they loved us for what we were doing, and they would listen to all the songs and stuff. But if you weren't into it, you could never get past the image, so nobody ever got to the songs. But musically, we weren't really into that sort of glam sort of side of stuff. I'd grown up on like T-Rex and Pepsi and even Stevie at the time. We'd grown up on a lot of that stuff, and we were into like early Rat and a lot of the American metal bands. But mainly we were into a very diverse, as a group of people, very diverse set of bands. I mean, Pepsi was like a massive Frank Zappa, Captain Beefheart, that kind of stuff. But he was also into Van Halen and Prince and that kind of thing. But I was like just straight ahead, like AC/DC, Status Quo, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest. The idea of putting any image around that to me was like, what? I was completely alien to me. But the one thing we all kind of agreed on was that getting up there just in a band in jeans and a t-shirt, making no effort as a show wasn't good enough. People paid to come and see you, and they deserve more than that. So when it came to the music, it was like we were influenced by all these things. And that song particularly, it started as a riff, started with the title, which I had, and then it kind of grew. But yeah, we were putting the rap around it. But then it moves on when you get to the way you used to do records, you demo something, and they were the ideas. Then you'd go into pre-production with the producer, and then things would change a bit when you'd go, yeah, maybe that's not working out so well, the rap thing. And so you change it to like it was more of a bluesy kind of soulful verse on the one we ended up with a different riff and different melody. And those things, they mature as you go along. By the time you make the record, the thing you started with is quite often not much like the thing you ended up with. That's the way it goes often, a lot of the time.
Yeah. And I wondered always why you were stuck on the glam thing. I understand it image-wise. To me, when I first saw Young and Crazy and even the artwork for Bezerk, it was, to me, it's kind of like Motley Crue kind of thing. But when you listen to the songs, Call of the Wild, for example, so aggressive, your cover versions of Creeping Death and Peace Cells, that was purest metal. And I always wondered, why don't they recognize the band for what it is? It's so much more than just a glam band.
Well, and this is my point. You see, what that featuring Kerrang did, and the moment that came out, we went from like nobody really knowing who we were, and we were supporting. We'd been signed to Tokyo Blade's management at the time. Well, Andy Bolton, the guitar player from Tokyo Blade, Stevie knew some of those guys, and he listened to our demo. And to cut a long story short, their manager kind of signed us, and we signed those guys. So we went and did some shows with them in Europe and in the UK. And we'd done that Kerrang interview, and we literally, as soon as that came up, whereas nobody wanted to know us at the time, as soon as that came out, and we turned up at like the Marquee, I think it was, supporting Tokyo Blade or whatever the show we were on, it was just like rammed. Everybody was there and into it, and it was just like, it was one of those moments you're like, wow, what's going on here kind of thing. Everybody stood up and took notice. But the problem was, what we didn't realize, like I said, is that it basically defined us. And what it also did is, no matter how good the band is, and I'll be quite honest with you, right? I don't care what anyone thinks about Tigertailz. They have perception of it. Musically, it's head and shoulders above just about 99% of those hair metal bands, image bands, because the songs are there, the musicianship, the riffs. Most of our songs, Ozzy or Judas Priest would be proud of. You know what I mean? Like you say, Call of the Wild. That could be on a Halloween album, or like you said, like a Priest album, or even Sabbath. Or it's monumental. The chorus has got everything. The riff, the chorus, everything a metal band would need. But the metal fans, if you weren't into the scene, you could never get past the image. So it doesn't matter. We could write Bohemian Rhapsody and it wouldn't matter because people can't get past the image, So the people who are into it, like yourself and a lot of people who thankfully still stick with us, they get it. But so many other people don't get it. And I tell you what happens every single time. This happens all the time. Whenever we play a festival and we're on, and because things have changed a bit, and this is a good thing, sometimes we play, particularly in Europe, where we play like festivals where they'll have a lot of metal bands on there, and bands that we wouldn't necessarily stack up with. And people want to come, the neutral fans, if you like, or maybe they're kicking between stages. They'll come and watch us and they'll want to hate us. But every single time we finish and they're like, wow, man, I did not see that coming. I didn't get that at all. And then they're queuing up outside afterwards to tell you how wrong they were about the band. Yeah. That has happened so many times. It happens all the time. But that's what it is. It's the image stopped everyone getting into it. And that song, as you say, Call of the Wild, is a prime example of that.
Shake it, make it, break it, any fucking way, say it. Lose it, I say it's wrong. Now feel it. Can you hear me? Hallelujah, say it. Call of the wild, when we young, living for peace, outside as well. Call of the wild, always be true. Call of the wild, courage to be.
Getting back to Berserk the demos, there's a song I didn't know till this release, Too Cool for School.
You stick your school books in all that trash. Come on, don't wanna play your game.
And I have two kids, two boys. They are now 11 and 13 years old. It's already an anthem for them because they really don't feel like going to school. And I think a lot of pupils will love this song. So I wondered why it didn't make the Bezerk record back then, because to me it reminded me like an updated version of something like School's Out from Alice Cooper.
Yeah, I think, and this probably is me and Pepsi where we were at. We had a big issue with the Americanisms of side of things, not, in a negative way. We were totally like influenced by bands, US bands, and some of our favorite bands like Rat, Dokken, and we loved all like the US producers who would like Beau Hill. We would buy records based on the production of the records. If like Beau Hill was doing something on Mutt Lange or Bruce Fairbairn, we would just buy the records. I remember getting into the band Kicks purely because Beau Hill had produced their record. Saw the cover, thought that's for me. Never even heard a track by him. Bought it, Midnight Dynamite, thought it was amazing. So we were into that. But what we were also not into was we didn't see ourselves. I think everybody else saw us as like, why aren't you in LA? Why aren't you there? Well, how can you be from Wales? How can you be from like this backwater little city, in the UK that nobody even knows about? Bands that come from here like Budgie, and Tom Jones and Shirley Bassey and people like that. A hair metal band doesn't come from here. But we were also kind of like, well, our music to us just sounds British, So we didn't want to tried to stay away from the Americanisms, and I was never really comfortable with that. There's another reason why we didn't take up business and go there until much later on, but that's another story. But so when it comes to Too Cool for School, it was like, well, that's a very Americanism saying. It means nothing over here, It's not a British saying. Yeah. Certainly in Wales, it's like, what? Sorry, I don't want to swear, but so what? Yes. We've got other slang. We've got a lot of slang. We've got our own language. We've got our own dialect. We've got a whole bunch of words that people wouldn't even understand to make it more sense to us. So when it, like the Too Cool for School, it was like, yeah, it's a bit too cheesy, Maybe Poison or something like that would do it because it's an American saying. It's not really one. So it kind of was we just thought it was a bit lame, I guess. But as you say, listening to it now, I think, yeah, it's actually quite a cool song. Maybe we should do it again.
Listening to the song, I wondered, what were you like during your time at school? Were you a good student back then?
Very bad. Very, very bad. No, I hated school, and I was rubbish at it because I just wasn't interested. As soon as I found music, and like a lot of us guys, you rebel against everything, and school had no interest to me. Ironically, the one thing, Phil Campbell was in my school, from Motorhead, and he played the morning assembly one day before ever in even his earlier band Persian Risk, who are from our area as well. He played in my school, played the morning assembly. He did Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin. I thought, yeah, that's what I want to do. Yeah,
that's a good inspiration. Yes, absolutely. That's great.
Yeah.
All right, another great song, and the opener on Berserk the demo, 6-Shoot Shuffle.
You're on the wrong side of the town. The wrong side of town. If you're looking for trouble, just stick around.
There's this line. You're on the wrong side of town. You've been traveling all over the world. In what situation did you think to yourself, just that, damn, I'm on the wrong side of town and probably I'm in trouble.
Being on the wrong side of town, yeah, it means exactly that. You're like in a place where you shouldn't be. You know, it's most cities have got their good and bad bits, and you know, Cardiff, Wales is no different. There's some areas where you don't want to be, and it was just playing, you know, homage and that kind of thing that happens in every city, I guess. You know, the bit where you shouldn't be, but you quite often end up in that area, and you think, I shouldn't be here really. And the club we used to frequent, Bogies, was kind of not in the best part of town. That was like an influence in a lot of what we were doing at that time. So yeah, cool song though.
It is, absolutely. and another one I really like a lot, Eastern Promise, a song that should have made it to the Bezerk record in my opinion. And I listened to it and I thought, oh, it sounds a bit familiar, and in one little part.
Something wasn't right behind your eyes all that time, telling me lies. Eastern promises.
The lyric, something wasn't right behind your eyes all the time, telling me lies. It appears slightly with different lyrics. Something ain't right behind her eyes. I know what she wants tonight. 6 sex.
Something ain't right behind her eyes. I know what she wants tonight. This is love. This ain't romance. This is love. This
And I wondered how that came together.
You're absolutely right, man. Yeah, that's basically we had the song was great. I thought the song was great.
Yes.
The riff was great, and the melody, it was all great. But again, when Pepsi wrote 6X, this is what kind of often happened. We would come in, and we were in there for a long time. Bezerk was writing those songs. Everything was a lot of work went into it. You know, months. I think we were in there writing songs about 6 months. Anyway, we would have people come in with different ideas, and like Pepsi came with 6X, and it just so happened he thought, well, that bridge out of Eastern Promise, you know, something in right behind her, just kind of fitted in where we were losing. We were lacking a bridge or something in 6X. It was like, there you go, man. Those two locked in, and it was like, yeah, no, that song completely works, you know. Whereas Eastern Promise had some really good bits in it, but then it kind of didn't really go anywhere. It kind of went into this big like solo kind of like almost like prog rock thing, and it was it's all right, but nah, you know, 6X is where it's at. Let's just have that one. So you move bits around. It's just the way songwriting goes, you know.
When Bezerk came out, we have to remember I was a kid back then and already a huge Tigertailz fan, but you won my heart even more when I heard Squeezy Try. The intro with it's Tweety, I guess, the cartoon intro.
The pretty cat got another playmate. It's gonna be off we lonesome from here to Pasadena.
It puts a big smile on my face when I heard at the demo version, it's already there. There's also the Tweety intro. How did you come up with that?
Well, me and Pepsi again, we were like massive, not only just into producers of music, like I said, Bo Hill, Bruce Fairbairn, Mutt Lange, the music producers. We were like, and I can't emphasize that enough. We were so into like the way people were producing records. We didn't even know the band. We would go and buy records on the strength of like with as soon as like I was aware of Mutt Lange when he did like AC/DC albums, but as soon as he got over Def Leppard, he completely transformed them, and all those backing vocals and all those, you know, and the way they were panning guitars. Like if you listen to the Rat stuff particularly on headphones, people don't care about these things anymore, but they should. It's not. I say this about the loss of like the digitization of music. It's not just the loss of the physical product that that's gone and all the artwork, but it's actually the way that people listen to music. They don't care about those things. But if you listen to the production on those records, like the Rat albums, and listen to the guitar, and it's all panning around your head. And we loved all that. But the same applied to our songs with films, movies. Pepsi, both of us were massive film buffs, and we loved all that kind of like the epic kind of film directors. And we were into like Aliens. At that time, Aliens 1 and 2 were out. And we were just like, oh my God, Ridley Scott and the way they made those films look. And if you hear, I think it's the end of I Can Fight Dirty 2, there's a big like smashing and guns going off. You know, we took those from the film Aliens, you know, and sampled them. And when it came to Tweety Pie, we thought that would be stupid at the front. So we actually, on the demo, we used Tweety Pie, but when we did it for real, because of the copyright stuff, we had to re-record it and create it ourselves. So yeah, it was just because we were like massively into films and stuff and film producers, and we loved all that stuff.
You're totally right about so many things in your last answer. Back in the day, when I bought a record, I had to watch my pocket money. There wasn't too much of it. So I listened to this record again and again. I darkened my room and I listened to it. And the Bezerk record, the cover artwork and the inner sleeve, it was all a big piece of art to me. Today, with streaming and with Spotify, you have all the music in the world at your hand, and you can't really appreciate it because it's too much. It hasn't the same feeling to it.
I agree, and yeah, I could talk about this for hours. It's exactly that. It's meaningless now, and I just touched on about the way people even listen to music. They don't care how it's recorded. You know, a lot of younger people, they listen on their phones. They don't even have headphones in. They don't care about the quality. But when we made records, and like Bezerk, we started in actually 1989, January, making that record. It took about 6 months on and off in the studio, you know, to actually just record that record and get it finished. Music for Nations didn't release it till the year later, which was a huge mistake. But the actual work that went into making that record, and not just the audio, writing the songs, creating recording the audio in the studio for months and months on end, miking up different cabs, creating audio sounds, drum sounds. It was epic. And then when it came to the art with Pepsi, I mean, bless him, that was his thing. And he wanted something, it wasn't just sonically brilliant, that visually it looked amazing. That's why when it comes to the cover, it isn't, and I think we posted this recently on Facebook, the cover, people think that it's Kim with just red eyes colored in, but it wasn't. He went out, Pepsi said, no, you got to wear real contact lenses for this, which at the time was insane. It was like Kim had to go in for like fittings at this optician's. And then when he eventually turned up at the photo shoot and put those things in, mate, I tell you, it was terrifying. It was like, whoa. So when you see that cover and all the photographs around it and the whole thing, and as you say, there's all the inner sleeve and all the artwork, the words around it, it's a huge undertaking, and nobody has that stuff anymore. People don't care about it, and it's such a shame. As you say, you put on Spotify, it's like, nobody even listens to albums anymore. They're lucky they're just spinning playlists, a track here, a track there, mostly flicking on. They don't even listen to one track, never mind 10 from an album. And it's tragic, but I don't know what you do to fix that. I think it's gone forever, unfortunately. It is what it is, man. We're just old.
I waited some 34 years now to ask you that question that I wondered about being a kid back then. What is your favorite cartoon?
Oh, cartoon.
Yes, because of the Looney Tunes Tweety stuff. I wondered, are they into the Looney Tunes, or what are they watching? What kind of cartoons are Tigertailz watching?
I think that might have been Pepsi's idea on the Tweety Pie thing. Myself personally, I was kind of into, like, not so much the cartoons, the other things where they were like models, you know, that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you ever saw this series in your country. It was called Terrorhawks.
Terrorhawks, stay on this channel. This is an emergency.
A weird one, and like other stupid ones, there were like kids things called Trumpton and the Herbs. These are just really mental, like British things that were just clearly some guy on acid or something. It was supposed to be for kids, but it clearly wasn't, you know. There was another one called Captain Pugwash. And it was on for children for many, many years in the UK, Captain Pugwash. And it was a really rubbish cartoon where the character would move like this, you know, drawings pretty much, really rubbish. But the characters in it were called like Master Bates and Seaman Staines. Well, it was a euphemism, do you know what I mean? Masturbate.
Find me the ship's dictionary, masturbate.
And these were the characters in the kids' TV.
That's great kind of humor.
Yeah. And it was on at like primetime kids television for years in the UK. Nobody got it until years later. Yeah, it's called Captain Pugwash. Look it up, man. That was what I used to watch.
I will check that definitely out. Thank you very much for that one. That's
You're welcome.
Great. Another song, and I have to be honest with you, that kind of irritated me a bit. Rambo, the song Rambo on Bezerk, the demos. You sing about Rambo's, I hope I get this one right, homosexuality. So how did you come up with the lyrics? Rambo, one of the most masculine heterosexual characters of the 80s. And I listened to that and thought, wow, that's a great take on looking at Rambo.
Rambo's career.
To be honest, that track slipped through the net. It shouldn't even be on that record.
Okay.
It shouldn't be out there at all. It was actually a joke that Kim recorded for... It was actually a friend of Ace's. Ace grew up, his dad was in the Air Force, so he lived on a military base and moved around the world, mainly between the US and UK, ended up in the UK. And his dad was in the Air Force. So when Ace, even though he was living in America at the time, when he moved over here in the UK to join the band in like 85 or whatever, 87, whatever that was, he lived with his parents on the US base. And we used to go there and kind of meet up with him and stay over to go to rehearsal. So we'd kind of stay over for a night or two. And one of Ace's main friends, his best friends, was this big GI guy. I forget his real name now, but he, Mark, I think. And he was like, we used to call him Rambo. Kim particularly got really friend with him because he was just like Rambo. He was Rambo, at the time, this massive guy who was like, oh, dude, and in the military, every cliche in the book. And Kim kind of kept in touch with him, and he wrote demo. It was a joke song for Rambo, Ace's mate, basically taking the mickey out of him as a bit of fun. And that short song shouldn't have got released out there. Really, it shouldn't be there. It's how can I say? It's not for the 21st century. It's certainly
but
not
it's
politically
fun to
correct.
listen to it.
Yeah, it's a complete joke, man, and a personal joke for that guy. It's not supposed to be anything other than that. It was Kim's bit of fun at him. That's it.
But great background story here. Thanks for sharing this with me. And I wondered, were you yourself confronted with prejudice because of your styling in the 80s, besides being labeled a glam band? But I once read an interview from Nicky Sixx of Motley Crue, and he said he was called faggot and stuff and was threatened. And then he turned to the guy and said, just because I wear makeup, it doesn't mean I can't kick your ass.
There was a lot of that went on. Again, ironically, Pepsi. I remember walking one time. This will tell you everything. And this is why I think it was the biggest mistake the band ever made. It was weird because it was like the thing that made us, broke us, got us signed, and took everything off. Everything took off for us, but it kind of killed our career instantly. And a good example was around that time we went to Donington Festival, as it was then, Download, and we were. Me and Pepsi, I don't know why it was just us, but we were going and we were walking into the festival, but going to the backstage area, but we had to walk past some of the main gate entrances where people were queuing. And people they were actually, quite often they were couples, girlfriend, boyfriend. They were coming out of the line, the boyfriends, when they saw us, because we were walking past them. When they realized who we were, they hated us so much and thought we were pussies and all that. They were coming out. Their girlfriends were holding them back. They wanted to come down and fight us because that's the mentality. That's what it did to some people. And that's what I'm saying about it. You were either into this scene, and if you weren't, you hated it and you hated everything with it. And clearly if you were wearing makeup and all that kind of stuff with it, you were a homosexual. You were, a lesser human being, and you deserved to have the shit kicked out of you. That was how it was. And Pepsi, didn't cause me too much trouble, but I remember being with Pepsi, and he had a lot of it. But Pepsi was like a really tough guy. You'd have never thought about it. They thought of him as that, but he was a really hard guy. And so once or twice it happened, and he beat the shit out of people. I saw it myself. This guy one time in our local town, every time we went out, this guy was giving him da 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 da. I had it a lot as well, but he was just like whatever. But this guy he knew, and he wouldn't give it up. This guy, and he basically fronted him out one night. Well, Pepsi beat the crap out of him because he's like 6'4" and like big fella, and it was like, okay, well, I need to shut up now. But it didn't fix anything. Like, yeah, even Nikki Sixx. I mean, if you're Nikki Sixx, you get away with it. But yeah, it didn't matter. It's people hate you, they hate you, and there's nothing you're going to change about that.
I never got it. Probably it is because I was a kid back then and wasn't thinking in labels or categories, but I listened to Motley Crue, to Tigertailz, Poison as well. But I also loved Ride the Lightning by Metallica, and it was all great music to me. I listened to Duran Duran as well, so and to Twisted Sister. So it didn't matter to me, and I never really got it why there's so much hate out there in our own scene. It's all rock music. So why is that?
It's just, and to be honest, people think it's got better. It hasn't. It's all still there right now.
Yeah.
The scene is totally like all the Beastie Boys and all the metal, like they're doing something new. It's like, really? I've heard this 1,000 times. You're not doing anything new, whoever you are, whatever band you're doing. You could be there with your big beard and go in and play 100 miles an hour and being really angry and aggressive, all that testosterone. It's like, yeah, okay. It's as bad as it ever was. And when they, look at other bands like us and they still label you as, oh, well, you're a bunch of faggots, It's like, really? It's like the 21st century. We're in, 2024 and you're still using that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed. People think it's changed, but it hasn't. The labels are still there. And if you, are a big macho guy, you listen to, the big bands, and then you're not a pussy, It's like, what? Really? But I don't understand it, but yeah.
So I have some Striper records and some Venom records as well. So that's the range.
Striper, amazing band. I'm not religious, but I love them, and
Great
I
musicians.
think they're incredible and amazing songs. Love them. Soldiers Under Command and To Hell with the Devil. Incredible records. Amazing.
Yes.
Great band. So just because I don't like their belief system, what they're all about, I don't care. It doesn't stop me liking their music.
Me too. Yeah. And Venom, it was more the image to me. I thought it's great, a band where the singer is called Kronos. And he looked the part.
I can tell you an interesting story about Venom.
Yeah.
They were just about to leave for their American. This is back in like the 80s, whatever, 90s, whatever it was. They were in London just about night before they were leaving for their US tour. And their manager took them to we were playing in town in London in the Astoria, and their manager took them along, and they were like, what, really? Why are we going to see this? Why do we want to go and see a bunch of faggots and pussies and all that? But he took them along, and they turned to him halfway through the gig and went, this is unbelievable. They're amazing.
Yeah.
They couldn't believe it. And their manager turned out to be a guy called Eric, who ended up setting up Demolition Records, who signed us for when we came back in 2004, whatever it was, 5, for a Bezerk 2 record. Eric, bless him, he's no longer with us. But he was their manager, and he took them at the time to see us, and they were like, yeah, we're a load of rubbish. But they stood there and were like, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's really good. And they became fans then. So who would have guessed?
But that's a great story, and it shows that musicians can appreciate what there is heard and played on stage, and it's not about the image. It goes so much deeper than that with music. So that's great to hear.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it goes, man.
Yeah, as a longtime Tigertailz fan, I often was with sorrow. Because of some of the interviews I read through the years, you said the band is facing crossroads as to its survival, and you didn't know if you could survive the latest troubles, and I really was worried because I wanted you to bring out new records and new music and stay with me forever. So why was?
Thank you.
thank you for being the soundtrack to my life. Why was the end of Tigertailz so close back then?
Well, I hit this point many times, and I guess we're there again. We're here now. We're at that point again because there's only so far you can take something. I feel, and back then and kind of now. I don't know what else to do, you know. We can't be the band we were because people aren't here anymore, like Pepsi's not here anymore. And the other members, Kim, Ace, for all sorts of reasons, that it doesn't work and it's never going to like reconcile. So there's no like getting that band together back as it was even closely. The band we have is great, you know, and I really enjoy. We've just been out doing a run of shows this year, and it's been amazing. You know, we've done some amazing stuff, brought out some amazing records, some new. I love doing the videos because I think a song doesn't really come to life until you do a video, and we've done that. Released EP, and we're bringing out a load of new product soon, or you know, releases. But I just find that myself like I don't know what else to do, you know, to create another record that. And I come back to like what it takes to create a record, to write the songs, because, and I don't want to discredit a lot of bands, but a lot of stuff I hear coming out is so insipid and it's so uninspired, and it clearly has taken very little effort. I can tell to create that record. People are like fans, like, oh, it's great. Well, it hasn't. It isn't. It's rubbish. A lot of what I hear is just so rubbish. It's not well thought out, but that's not the way we do things. I spend a lot of time demoing stuff, make songs better, and to get 10 songs at least in that shape, form, to record them all and get to that point, it's a massive amount of work. It's like about a year or more's worth of work. And when it comes out and it just like goes on Spotify and whatever, and people go, oh, it's great, you know, for 5 minutes, and then it's like, then nothing else happens. I haven't got that much life left in front of me to give that away for very little return, you know. It's not like suddenly the whole world picks up on it and makes it worthwhile. And this is not from a monetary point of view. I've never done it for the money. It's just getting it recognized. We do very well, I suppose, for a band who's been around for 40 years. Thankfully, the people like yourself who have stuck with us, and we're very grateful for that. We have a fan base, you know, global fan base, which I'm really grateful for and proud of, that these people have stuck with us. But I don't know what to do to just keep making the same music, and the music like I'm kind of into is not what we were doing, if you know what I mean. I feel as though musically I just want to do something a bit different. So I think that's why it is always facing a crossroads for me.
I'm glad you're still here. Tigertailz still here. And another topic I wondered how you feel about it. I read the book Ace wrote, Drummer's Tales from the Road, and there are some harsh accusations in your direction. And to me as a fan,
most of it.
yes, most of it. Oh, there's some great pictures in it as well. I have to mention that. But to me as a fan, it was quite hard to read that because it is his book, so it's his side of the story. But it's hard to read it as a fan. And I wondered, you have experienced so much together. How did you feel when you read these accusations, when even me as a person who isn't involved in it thought, oh, that's kind of harsh here?
As you say, it's Ace's side of the story, and he, you know, fair play to him. Writing the book is not easy, regardless of what anyone thinks of it. It's a huge undertaking, so credit to him for doing that. But when it comes to, you know, his view on things, it's just that it's his view, it's his side of the story. Now I could give you my side of the story, and it's probably be just as shocking, you know, in other ways. There's a lot of revelations there that's, you know, should come out about people and things that happened, and maybe in time it will, where we're looking at making a documentary. That's something else that I'm kind of working with at the moment. We've just finished a trailer for that. Maybe that'll happen, and in that, maybe that's a time for me to more, you know, like a video, you know, TV, whatever, film forum to get that out there, because like I said, it's his side of the story, it's the way he saw things, but my side of the story is entirely different about that. I'm not surprised by any of it. What can I say? Yeah, I could give you my side of the story, but I don't get too worked up about these things. Okay. You know, other people, Stevie and Kim, all have their own axe to grind. I know what went on. I know what, you know, me and Pepsi dealt with and how we managed the band. The band wouldn't exist if it wasn't for me and him. you're basically carrying these people. They contribute little or nothing. And so when they're asked to leave the band, or the way they're treated is because they become a problem where you can't function, and then they get hurt by it. When you have to make that decision, it's terrible. Nobody wants to make that decision, but when somebody's in a band and the band stops working, and this is why people say, "Oh, you've had loads of lineup changes." Well, yes, because some are forced on us. You can't do anything about somebody getting ill and dying. So you can't do something about somebody not being able to do it. But more often than not, it's just that people let you down. They're unprofessional, and they haven't got what it takes to be in a band at this level. That's the problem. They can't hack it, and they're unprofessional in all different ways. They're unreliable, and they can't do their job. So when you tell them some of those home truths and put it to them like that and ask them to leave, they get upset about it. And then, of course, they come back at you with that kind of bile, So it's his take. I'll give you mine some point.
I'm looking forward to it. And to get back to happier topics, we talked about different musical influences in Tigertailz, the musical styles. And I always thought you were more experimental than many other bands back in the day. And the first time I heard your cover versions of Creeping Death by Metallica and Peace Sells but Who's Spine by Megadeth, I thought that is amazing. It blew me away.
So let me return, so let me die. I'm sanctified and chosen one. So let me return, so let me die. To kill the firstborn son.
Well, we did those as a B-side. We actually went in to do 3 songs. The other one was Excited by Judas Priest. Yeah, and ironically, you talk about Ace having a go at me. The reason we didn't end up doing that is because he couldn't play it, so that's why that didn't end up on there. But we actually went to do 3 songs. So Excited by Judas Priest, right? Creeping Death, and Peace Sells. Pepsi was a massive Megadeth fan, and Dave Mustaine was one of his idols, which he met him and. Dave Mustaine hated him, but anyway, that's another story.
Oh no!
Yeah, but we were huge Metallica fans. Got into him on Ride the Lightning. Now, again, you see, this is where the image kind of destroyed us, because any Metallica fan would say, "Well, what are you doing that for?" Even though the versions we did, and we didn't want to make them exactly the same. We wanted to do them, put our little bit of spice on them, our little take. So that's why you've got those orchestral keyboards and little wacky bits in there. Something that those bands would have never have done. We wanted to make it our own, but it was also very much a bit like everyone giving the finger to everyone who thought that we were just some second-rate Poison. That, like I said, there's so much more to this band than that. And it was just to prove a point and also have a bit of fun. We were actually huge fans. And you can hear that the way Kim sings them, the delivery of his vocals on there. He ain't faking that. He means it, because he was into it, massively into it. Ride the Lightning is one of our favorite albums. All of us, we loved it, when it came out. So we're not just like a hair metal band or glam band having to go to take the mickey out of the songs. Not at all. We were really into it and loved it. So, yeah.
And you can feel it to this day. I did my workout yesterday to Creeping Death by Tigertailz, so it still has so much power in it. I really love it. I wondered, did you ever got any feedback from Metallica or Megadeth about your versions of their songs?
Well, weirdly enough, we were on Music for Nations at that point, who Metallica's first 3 records were on Music for Nations, yeah? So they were on the same label. So Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and just... Master of Puppets were all on Music for Nations too. Then they left Music for Nations to do, I think it was Justice for All was the first they signed to Phonogram, I think. But for those first 3 records, the Music for Nations people are mainly that there was 2 main guys, Martin Hooker and Jem Howard. Jem was also their tour manager. Well, he was our guy too. So when we did, I believe when we did Creeping Death, he played it to Kirk Hammett, I think, and he thought it sounded cool. But that's the only feedback we got from it. I haven't heard about any of the others. I can't imagine James or Lars thinking it was pretty cool, but I don't know. Maybe after 40 years, they think, yeah, it's okay. It's pretty good.
They have to admit it is cool. So.
I think so too.
Yes, it's still great to listen to those songs. Tigertailz have played many great concerts over the years, and I would like to talk about an event that you were part of. I never was there, sadly enough, but you were part in 2014, I guess, of the Kiss cruise. What was it like to play on a ship with Kiss and all the Kiss army?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. A weird kind of experience, but yeah, great fun and a great experience. And we got to meet, the guys as well, which was really cool. Yeah, I don't know. It was also tough going because we just had no equipment. We had to borrow equipment from the other bands there, and they were kind enough to lend us to us. But it was quite stressful as well with all that kind of stuff. We're not just a band that turns up and just plays on anything and doesn't really care. We take, again, a lot of time and pride in how the band sounds live. So just to rock up with no equipment and just use anything was really tough. But we did it, and it was really, really cool. Great experience for sure.
And you did something special. I saw a video of it on YouTube. You covered "I" from the Elder record, a record Kiss is kind of ashamed of. They never play any songs of it. They played one time World Without Heroes at the MTV Unplugged, I guess. But since then, this record was erased from any setlist. And I heard the version you played, and I think it's a good song. It's not their best song ever, but it's a good song, and it's good live song as well. So I really like that idea of taking that to the stage and play that Kiss cruise.
Well, that was Matt, really. Matt's like the biggest Kiss fan. Matt, our drummer, is the biggest Kiss fan ever. And he said, when we got asked to do it, he said you had to play like your own shows, but they wanted you to play on the deck, some bands, and you had to play do a Kiss cover. Of course, everyone immediately jumps for the obvious songs, Love Gun and Detroit Rock City, whatever. Yeah. And Matt said, well, no, don't do that. Pick something really obscure, that nobody else would do. So that it was his idea, and it was the right choice, Was it Million to One? I think we did. Was it, or we did two? Actually, we did but we did. I think we did Million to One as well. I think.
I have just found I, but Million to One would be a great choice as well. So,
yeah,
yes.
we did two. I'm sure we did, and we picked those because for that very reason that no other bands would choose those songs, and it was good. It was a good show. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I really liked it. That was something special. That was great. And I thought, that's a great choice. We've just been talking about the latest Tigertailz release, Bezerk, the demos, and I've read that the next project is already in the pipelines and will be released next January. Tigertailz for a few dollars more, the archives. Can you already tell us something about this one?
Yes, well, this we've effectively signed a whole back catalogue to the Cherry Red label. It's called H&E, Cherry Red, H&E Records. So basically everything we've ever done, they're going to release across 3 box sets. The first one is out in January, and that covers the period from like 1984 when we first started, the first demo we ever did, up until I think about 92 or something, 91, 92, I forget. So it includes the first demo we ever did, which is abysmal. it's appalling, and it would sound nothing like anyone would ever expect us to sound, but it's there. I think there's 3 tracks off that, I think. And then you get like the Shoot to Kill EP, Young Crazy, Bezerk, and then a load of stuff like I was on Banzai, but also the singles with all the B-sides. I don't know, there's 3 CDs, and the artwork is like really comprehensive, so full of pictures, personal pictures, and then information about the song. And then our good friend from Classic Rock, the journalist Dave Ling, he has written the liner notes for it. So it's a really big package, and it's the first of 3 of those. So the first one is out in January. Yeah, it's going to be really cool.
That sounds really great, and I'm looking forward to this one and to the other 2 volumes as well, because I'd really love to have a record with all your latest songs as well on one album. So like a little bit of rock and the new version of Zigzags and stuff like that, because I have the singles and the releases and stuff like that, but to have it all together is something special as well.
So you'll get that as well. So yeah, the first one is that early stuff up to Band's Eye. That's volume 1. So that's come out in January, and then there's no dates for the other ones yet. But volume 2 will be like the Wazbones era. And there's 2 of those records that are completely different, really. The version we recorded in the US in like 91, and then the version that got released in the UK 94, I think. Along with I think it's there's some other singles around that, plus the Bezerk live album is on there, volume 2, and I think volume 2 includes maybe some more live stuff. I forget, some bootleg stuff, and then volume 3 will be, as you say, all that more new recent stuff. And again, no date for that yet. But we're also working on, as in amongst all of that, a double live album with hopefully a DVD to go with it from the tour we've just done this year. That's just recorded. And we're just in the mixing stage of that and editing the video. So that's going to be a double live album called Blitz, Assault on the UK, Live Blitz. That, no date for that, but I suspect middle of next year maybe, and that's going to be a double vinyl CD, DVD, hopefully all in one. And on top of that, like amazing. I said, so I'm also kind of working on the beginnings of a documentary. We've done a trailer for that we may release. I don't know. We're trying to get funding for it. So watch this space on that one as well.
I will. And that's great to hear that there's so many more things in the pipeline from Tigertailz for the fans. And I have one last question. I know you're on tour in the UK, but being in Germany, I have to ask you, is there any chance that you come to Germany to play some gigs here?
Well, we'd love to. And I mean, but the thing is, and this comes back to the question about the Crossroads, it's because we've done so much stuff and we kind of done everything we wanted to do. We're not like, and this is where we kind of differ, I guess, from a lot of bands out there. For me, I have an entirely different life to this, and I don't need this. This is not my living, and this is why it's never been about the money for me. Me and Pepsi, when we came back together in 2004, whatever it was, we made a pact. Basically, we said we're not going to have this band like take over our lives again. You know, we're going to drop in, drop out, and so we don't do it for a living, and it's not my main income. So we're not like other bands in that regard that we just need to keep playing and playing dates all the time. You know, I do it because I want to do it, and that means picking the right shows that we want to do. So yeah, we've just done the run of shows in the UK, and we've got one left in December. Unless there's the right kind of show, and I'm talking like either a decent support slot with or double headliner with another band, if that works, or more likely festival appearances. And one of the best festival appearances we've done in recent years was Bang Your Head. I was really sad to hear that festival go into the wall recently. That was really a real shame because it was great. That was amazing. We did in 2016, I think, maybe. Yeah. In Germany. I'd love to come back, but it needs to be something like that, you know, it's not easy mobilizing this band, a group of people, because everybody, the other guys are in other bands, are all booked up, you know, and so when something comes in, we get offered something, as often is the case. It's like, oh, well, so-and-so's not available, or, you know, they got this going on. So, but if it's the right kind of shows, you know, or show, we do it. But just to go out there and play a bunch of club dates, I don't think that's gonna happen. It need to be something substantial, really, to make it work. You know. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I totally understand. So I'm still hoping for it to happen, and perhaps a festival slot could be great. And then
speak to the guys at Wacken, whoever runs that. That would be something we'd play. You know, that's something like that. And you know what? With that being like a primarily like metal festival, with you know, let us play it, and then you'll see. You know how glam we are.
So we hope for the big stage where Tigertailz definitely belongs. And I say thank you so much for taking your time for doing the interview. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate your work. And thank you for all the great music you shared with all of us through the years. Great to have you here.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Michael. Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for sticking with us. You're the reason we're still here. I don't know how, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it.